Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Dave's Top 3,000 Songs of the Rock Era. I'm your host, David Tear, where every day I feature a countdown from my top 3,000 song, my personal top 3,000 songs of the rock era from 1954 to 1999. And today I'm up to song number 2524, and that one is Us and Them by Pink Floyd. This I don't think the single charted in the USA. It charted in a few other countries, including Canada. I think it was a minor hit there, but it's mainly known for being on the soundtrack on the album "Dark Side of the Moon," which is I think their most well-known album. Uh, in case you guys don't know, "Dark Side of the Moon." I believe that was their first big album. And like most of maybe all of Pink Floyd's albums, it's a concept album, excellent album, I think. I used to own the CD, and pretty pretty great album, pretty great songs, including this one, "Us and Them," and it has this iconic picture on the cover of a prism, a triangular prism splitting a beam of white light. And that's the experiment Isaac Newton was famous for. In case you guys don't know, that's he discovered the spectrum of light. But I'm getting a little carried away. I do have a master's degree in physics, so anyway. Let me just get back to this song, "Us and Them." It's an anti-war song, really. I mean, it's a song about not just war, but just human conflict in general. I mean, I guess the first couple verses are about actually fighting a war on the battlefield, and I think the beginning of the song is very expressive. They says us and them, but after all, we're only ordinary men, which I think is true. And I think a lot of people, including some people I know, like my cousin, I mean, he grew up during Vietnam. I guess he was too young to be drafted, but I mean, he kind of like I guess a lot of Americans during the Cold War were kind of brought up thinking of the Soviet Union as our enemy. But what he gradually realized was that Russians are just like us. I mean, they're just ordinary people, and it's the governments that were enemies. And I think that's how it's been for most of history. Actually, I mean, we have different ideologies. Every country has different beliefs, different ideologies, and we kind of justify warfare as a means of I guess victory over our enemies. But I mean, I'm a pacifist. I guess you can probably tell from what I'm saying here, and I think the members of Pink Floyd were as well, and you can kind of tell from this song. And it's not. I don't think it's just about warfare on the battlefield either. I mean, by the end of the song, we sing "In and Out." And that's just what the fighting's all about. Who can deny this is what the fighting's all about? I think they're talking about sex here, and basically what they're saying is we all want sex is kind of a Freudian interpretation, I think. And maybe it's our sex drive, which Freud said was the main drive of our ego that compels us to fight each other, not just on the battlefield but in life. And it's probably true. Anyway, I guess I just want to say one more thing about this song. I remember, well, I first heard this song shortly after I started college. I think it was my sophomore year of college. I wasn't really all that familiar with most of Pink Floyd's songs at the time. I'd heard a couple of them on the radio. I mostly listened to, top 40 songs, and Pink Floyd didn't have a lot of top 40 songs. I think they only had two top 40 singles. They did have the song "Money," which is also featured on this album. Excellent song. That one's coming in much higher on my list, as well as the only other top 40 hit they had was "Another Brick in the Wall," which went all the way to number one, and that one's also coming up much higher. So those are their two most well-known songs, but I think they had a lot of other great songs and great albums. They're not. I mean, Pink Floyd isn't really one of my favorite classic rock groups. A lot of people I know just are nuts about Pink Floyd. I never was that much, but I do like this album, "Dark Side of the Moon." I think this was their masterpiece album. I really don't care much for "The Wall." I mean, I like the song "Another Brick in the Wall," and maybe there's a couple other songs on that album I sort of like, but I think just about every song on this album, "Dark Side of the Moon," is really excellent. And what else? Oh yeah, I just want to say one more thing about this. My introduction to this album was my sophomore year in college. That was shortly after I met my girlfriend that year. She had this album, and we used to fool around in her room, and we'd listen to music, and I guess she liked to listen to this album sometimes. And she told me that this album kind of made you feel like you were stoned, even if you weren't. And she said this song in particular. And I kind of agreed with her. I mean, I remember when we were listening to this song, I was just thinking, God, this is a really trippy song. Like, I almost felt like I was on a trip just listening to it. Just the way they sing it and the sound effects, like us, us. They do this echo, and them. And after all, we're only ordinary men. I mean, it almost sounds like you're on some cloud nine the way they sing it. And another thing I've heard about this album, Dark Side of the Moon. I never tried this, but a lot of people say that this album is perfectly synced to The Wizard of Oz. I've never listened to The Dark Side of the Moon while watching The Wizard of Oz with the sound off. Maybe I have to try that sometime and see how well it is synced. I don't know if that was intentional on the part of Pink Floyd or if this is just popular folklore. I mean, I know this album is a lot shorter than the movie. The movie is, I think, 100 minutes long, and I don't know how long the album is, probably about 40 or 50 minutes. So, time wise, it wouldn't work out. I know that. Anyway, I think that's all I have to say about Us and Them by Pink Floyd. Yeah, here's a picture of Pink Floyd around the time they recorded it. Um, anyway, that concludes my feature on Us and Them by Pink Floyd. Thank you for watching. Like Fred and Ethelbert say, you're never too old to rock and roll. So I'll see you guys next time. Bye.